All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a wonderful morning. It is March 27, 2025, and we got 2 days left of the quarter and the end of the month here, and we are coming off of some pretty big tariff news. So last night, we had the auto tariff news. So last night, that's me. We had all that. We got our little surprise. There was everything from copper to autos. And then after the bell, a little bit behind schedule, we heard about the 25% tariff on autos. And Trump was very non-exceptional about it. He said he'll go easier on the reciprocals on April 2nd. But when it's all said and done now, you got a pretty interesting reaction. Ford was down. Then they popped back up, surprisingly. Now they're chilling right where they ended yesterday. Then GM, Stellantis, depending on who has more exposure, they're doing pretty bad right now. And then the market is actually staying pinned, although you had good GDP data, which once again highlights that soft data expectations, they are terrible, but GDP actually pulled ahead, meaning that it expanded, and it still shows what you have seen over the last couple of months, even down to the Trump trade war front run. So we got an interesting day ahead. We'll see where it all takes us, Chad, but today, tomorrow, we should get a little bit of fireworks. So how you living, baby? Good morning. What up, Mark? What up, Ivy? What up, Lucky Soldier? Good morning. Hands there, baby. Yay, Brown Top Crows, Frank, baby. Good morning. Sean Moose, Alex Enzo, Dakota, Leo, Monica, Mr. Malone, Najee Wolf, baby. What's going on? Oh, Meta. Oh, they didn't wait. Oh, come on. I wanted that Meta put. Wait, it's not even moving. Okay, few. Good morning. What up, Nate? What up, Ryan? Dos Nacho, Sean Murphy, El Chapato, Henry, Gabor, Bushdale, baby, Johnny Stallings in the house, Bruce B, Tiger Man, KFCG, Tyree, Menace, Laurie. Good morning, baby. What about the Twitch? Feed me Seymour, Razzle Dazzle, Dinosaur, Roach Vince, Payday Devil, Slizzin, Dinosaur again, The Mercator, Iron Beagle, Triple Three, Preforms, 12 Jimin, Epic Eric, El Coyote, Blow and Doll, Robo Handtech, and Pie Guy, baby. Good morning. So, Chatadonia, I hope y'all locked in. I hope you are feeling good. And now here is Josh AI with the news, baby. Good morning. European stocks fall as automakers take tariff hit. European stocks fell as the U.S. pushed ahead with harsh tariffs on automakers and threatened more sweeping trade levies, reinforcing investor concern about the hit to global economic growth. The stock 600 slid 0.5%. Stellantis NV, which makes the Jeep Compass SUV in Mexico, and Mercedes-Benz Group AG fell about 3%. Traders also sold U.S. auto shares, with General Motors Company tumbling 6% in pre-market trading. Tesla Inc. inched higher on speculation its U.S. factories will help insulate it from tariffs. Meanwhile, S&P 500 futures were little changed after the previous day's 1.1% drop. Gold advanced and the dollar steadied. President Donald Trump is moving quickly ahead with more trade levies, announcing on Wednesday that auto imports would be slapped with a 25% tariff and suggesting further duties on the European Union and Canada. According to Bloomberg Intelligence, Porsche AG and Mercedes-Benz are likely to be the hardest hit by the latest salvo. Tariffs are front and center on people's minds, said Arun Sai, senior multi-asset strategist at Pictet Asset Management. We all know that tariffs are stagflationary and markets have been trying to price that to different extents. What we don't know yet is what's the ultimate lasting impact. The tariff drama is also casting doubt over European equities' recent outperformance against U.S. peers. Pictet Sai has downgraded his view on Europe, citing an inevitable hit to economic growth and earnings. Over at BlackRock Investment Institute, managers expect U.S. stocks to soon regain their edge. Meanwhile, the European Union is preparing for a massive round of tariffs set to target the bloc as soon as next week. Among its retaliatory options is considering to deploy one of EU's most powerful trade policy tools, the so-called anti-coercion instrument. Euro area bond yields slipped as expectations grew that the central bank will cut interest rates to cushion the fallout from trade-related shocks. In the U.S., Treasury 10-year yields edged 3 basis points higher on concerns that trade levies will fan inflation, a fear voiced on Wednesday by St. Louis Federal Reserve President Alberto Musalem. Musalem said it's not clear the impact of tariffs will prove temporary and cautioned that secondary effects could prompt officials to hold interest rates steady for longer. Gold has been benefiting from haven demand. Goldman Sachs Group Inc. ramped up its forecast to $3,300 an ounce by year-end, the latest in a series of banks to up their prediction. BlackRock sees U.S. stocks back on top. A recurring question in markets this year has been whether U.S. exceptionalism is well and truly over. It sure seemed that way at times, as stock indexes in Europe have been outperforming U.S. benchmarks, while Chinese tech shares have soared even as the once-hot Magnificent Seven stumble. But the world's largest asset manager sees a comeback in store for the U.S. Stocks in America will soon regain their long-held edge over European peers, says Jean Boivin, head of BlackRock's in-house strategy shop, the BlackRock Investment Institute. The brighter outlook for the old continent stocks is limited to sectors such as defense and banks, he says. This is a pretty narrow European story, Boivin said in an interview in London. There's no strong conviction yet to play Europe over the U.S. over a 6 to 12-month horizon. We need to see more fiscal impetus beyond defense, and implementation will be key. Trump says he's open to a China tariff cut to secure TikTok deal. President Donald Trump said he would consider lowering tariff rates imposed on China to secure Beijing support for a sale of the U.S. operations of ByteDance Lita's social video platform TikTok to an American company. Every point in tariffs is worth more than TikTok, Trump told reporters Wednesday in the Oval Office. He suggested that in order to get China to agree to a sale, maybe I'd give them a reduction in tariffs. Fed urged to explore hedge fund bailout tool for basis trade. The Federal Reserve should consider setting up an emergency program that would close out highly leveraged hedge fund trades in the event of a crisis in the $29 trillion U.S. Treasuries market. According to a panel of financial experts, any vicious unwinding of a swath of the estimated $1 trillion in hedge fund arbitrage bets would not only hamper the Treasuries market, but others as well, requiring Fed intervention to assure financial stability. When the U.S. Central Bank did that in March 2020 during the initial COVID crisis, it engaged in massive outright purchases of Treasury securities to the tune of about $1.6 trillion over several weeks. A better way of stepping in would be via hedged bond purchases, according to a Brookings Institution paper by Anil Kashyap at the University of Chicago, Harvard University's Jeremy Stein, a former Fed governor, Harvard Business School's Jonathan Wallen, and Columbia University's Joshua Younger. If the Fed is tempted to buy again, we'd rather they do that on a hedged basis, Stein told reporters in a briefing on the paper, which was released late Wednesday. This approach can be a valuable addition to the policy toolkit at the Fed, the authors wrote in the paper. Top overnight news, President Trump posted on Truth. If the European Union works with Canada in order to do economic harm to the USA, large-scale tariffs, far larger than currently planned, will be placed on them both in order to protect the best friend that each of those two countries has ever had. So China reject Trump's offer of tariff waivers in exchange for TikTok deal, according to AFP. OpenAI is said to be close to a SoftBank-led $40 billion funding deal that would double its valuation to $300 billion. The AI developers' funding round would be the largest of all time. BBG, U.S. President Trump effectively cut 10% of funding for the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security, which is the key agency in the U.S.-China tech race. BBG, the Trump administration's deep cuts to the federal workforce and research funding threaten to erode the quality and credibility of gold standard U.S. statistics, economists have warned. U.S. data from the jobs report to inflation indices can swing the street's dollar, 105 TN stock, and bond markets in milliseconds and underpin policies that influence the trajectory of the world's biggest economy. FT Aziso, Chinese Vice Premier Ding Shuxiang on Thursday pledged stronger policy support for the world's number 2 economy, which he said had started 2025 well and was on track to hit this year's growth target, buoyed by advancements in AI and other technologies, RTRS. The Chinese financial authorities have told some companies and advisors that they can begin the process of launching mainland initial public offerings once more in an early sign of a rebound in listings in the world's second largest economy. Authorities have informed groups in the tech, advanced manufacturing, and consumer sectors in the past few weeks that they can file IPO paperwork, FT. China may inject up to $260 billion of liquidity into developers this year, Bloomberg Economics said. Meanwhile, the biggest banks are said to be accelerating write-offs of soured property loans to clean up their balance sheets. BBG, Japanese PM Shigeru Ishiba, said he won't rule out taking countermeasures against the 25% tariff on U.S. car imports. The new levies greatly reduce the likelihood of the BOJ raising rates on May 1st, central bank watchers said. BBG, Ukraine is reviewing an economic partnership proposal from the U.S. that may be signed as soon as next week, Scott Bessent told Fox. European leaders are meeting in Paris today to try to carve a role for themselves in the U.S.-led ceasefire talks. BBG, Donald Trump said he'd impose tariffs far larger than currently planned on Canada and the EU if they work together against the U.S. Earlier, he announced a 25% levy on all car imports effective next week. Reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on all nations, Trump added, though rates may be lower than expected. Trump also said he'd consider lowering levies on China to secure a TikTok deal. BBG, copper traders are racing against time to ship the metal to the U.S. before tariffs hit in weeks, not months. They risk losses on shipping costs, and that may wipe out profits for those that locked in the spread between COMEX and LME prices. BBG. No news on Meta. I think the algos just watch the watch list. That's about it. But we got more, baby. Good morning. Happy Friday, Junior. S&P futures, they are not doing much on Thursday morning. Comes after U.S. equities finish lower on Wednesday, with the S&P, NASDAQ, and Russell all down over 1%. Mag 7 hit following the big recent bounce. AI data center, cyclicals, high short interest among the laggards. Defensives outperformed, and equal weight S&P beat the benchmark by 90 basis points. Treasuries are weaker, mostly with the curve bear steepening, and yields up 1 to 4 basis points. Dollar's off by 0.2. Gold is up by 1.2. Bitcoin is up by 0.5, and WTI is off by 0.2. Trade, not surprisingly, dominating the headlines. Weighing on the auto space, Trump announced additional 25% tariff on all cars not made in the U.S. Trump flagged the tariffs, which will go into effect on April 3rd and include auto parts as permanent. Also warned of higher tariffs in the event of retaliation and previewed levies on pharma and lumber. However, did note that the widely anticipated reciprocal on April 2nd will be lenient. No great explanation for the broader market resilience. Some focus on lenient remark, though fits with the market's fairly consistent underestimation of Trump's interest in restructuring global trade. Also comes on the heels of a recent 10% drawdown, largely chalked up to concerns about spillover of Trump 2.0. In addition, news elsewhere of Washington has looked a little bit better, with Senate Republicans speeding up reconciliation heading into the month and quarter end. Desks have also highlighted favorable rebalancing dynamics for equities. Was that KD and DJT and a lot of things moving pre-market. Weekly initial claims printed nearly in line with consensus, though continuing claims were lighter than forecast and prior week was revised lower. Final read for GDP ticked up to 2.4 from 2.3, helped by an acceleration in consumer spending. February pending homes comes in later today. Treasury selling $44 billion of 7-year notes, bringing this week's supply to 183. Fed Barkin speaks after the close, while recent Fed speak has leaned more hawkish on tariff dynamics when Powell's press conference last week. Personal income spending, core PCE, and consumer sentiment on Friday. GM and Ford under pressure on the back of GM on 1.39 convertible offering announcement. That was GME, not GM. JEF, a laggard after a miss with takeaway focus on delayed capital market recovery. Full up on better Q1 sales and EBITDA, unchanged full-year guide despite weak overall market demand and geopolitical uncertainty. CNXC up following its EPS and free cash flow outperformance. Guidance conservatism and AI deployment. VRNT down big on their miss and softer guide, with company noting seeing some slippage of unbundled deals, though AI commentary upbeat. SCS post-earnings standout, with company highlighting back-to-office tailwind. Wolf boosted EBITDA beat, better full-year guide and low bar. DDD missed and guided below, but did announce new cost cuts. Burp. There's more. Trump announces 25% tariffs on autos, stuns American auto allies. Trump says reciprocals will apply to all nations but will be lenient. Allies pivot to defense mode. Experts say tariffs could soon drive car prices much higher and limit production value to raise prices. Elon Musk warns auto tariffs significantly impact Tesla part costs but still gains a leg up versus rivals. Trump floats giving China a tariff cut in return for deal on TikTok. Trump admin adds more than 50 Chinese companies to tech export list. USTR Greer and his Chinese counterpart each expressed concern to each other over trade practice and tariff. China Xi said to be meeting chief executives of BMW, Mercedes, and Qualcomm and other key foreign business leaders. U.S. corporate executives look for workarounds and rethink supply chain reliance on China. Trump threatens Europe and Canada if they team up against U.S. Canada Carney says will respond soon to Trump's auto tariffs. EU braces for economic fallout as Trump unveils 25% tariffs. Japan PM Ishiba will consider appropriate response to Trump's auto tariffs. Dallas Fed survey shows U.S. shale executives alarmed at Trump's tariffs and rhetoric on oil prices. Economists warn Trump's cut on tariffs threatens quality. How many times do I have to read the word tariffs? Microsoft cancels more new data projects in the U.S. and Europe due to oversupply and computer clusters for AI. OpenAI expects revenue to be more than tripled to 12.7 and rise to nearly $30 billion in 2026. OpenAI closed finalizing $40 billion funding led by SoftBank. Chinese server maker H3C warns NVIDIA AI chip shortage amid surging demand. TSMC $100 billion investment won't restore U.S. chip-making leadership. Elliott Management held talks with private equity firms to interest in Bayer's consumer health unit. H&M profit slumps, continuing fast fashion struggle to attract shoppers. Hedge funds snap up cyclical stocks and dip buying activity as tariff fears weigh. New York copper spikes to record high as traders scramble to get before tariffs hit in weeks. Resumptions of China tech rally depends on new catalysts such as earnings growth, AI, and tariffs. Senate parliamentary ruling could come as soon as GOP hope for current baseline. Conservative Republican senators pressuring leader Thune for more concessions as reconciliation approaches. Court blocks Trump's freeze on government financial assistance for now. GOP concerned about competitive Florida special election House seat. Signalgate scrambles MAGA's messaging machine as loyalists struggle to defend the scandal. St. Louis Fed Muslim says secondary effects of tariffs could keep rates on hold for longer. Trump auto tariffs seen reducing already low prospect to BOJ rate hike. ECB Kazakh says policy easing can continue if baseline scenario holds. ECB once suggests steady interest rate amid U.S. trade policy. Norges Banks keeps rate at 4.5 but maintains easing. China industrial profit shrinks for the first time in 2 months amid deflationary pressure. China banks accelerate disposal of bad loans to boost economy. China vice premier pledges support for growth amid technological advancement. China e-commerce giant points to improvement in consumer spending but not back to pre-COVID levels. China tells companies in tech advanced manufacturing to begin process of launching mainline IPOs. China tells SOEs to pause new transactions with companies linked to Li Ka-shing and family over Panama port deal. Treasury best hits at possible Russian bank SWIFT re-entry. European leaders gather in Paris to bolster Ukraine's security amid ceasefire talks, and European peacekeeping ambitions scale back amid U.S. brokered truce. Wow! Good morning. There's more. That's not bad. A decent amount of headlines. A decent amount for the AM. Bro, the amount of times I've read tariffs, I'm actually shocked. It's my favorite word. Read it again. Say it again. Again. One more. Again. Tariff. Anyways, we have some pre-market movers. You have Checkpoint. They are up by 3.1. Bank of America upgrade. Kava is up by 2 to join S&P Midcap 400. Ford is up by 1.3, announcing on the tariffs. SLNO up 37. FDA approves Vicat XR to treat hyperphagia in Prader-Willi syndrome. SCS up 10 off earnings. Full up 7.6 off earnings. Agro up 6.7. Tether will acquire up to 49 million shares. NFE up 6.1. Sells Jamaica Downstream LMG and power infrastructure for $1 billion. WVE up 4.8, RVMD up 3.4, LBRT 2.4, Morgan Stanley upgrade, TDTH 29.1, 1 million stock buyback, RGLS up 18, completes phase 1B MAD clinical trial of farabursen, EDAP up 17.1 off earnings, MIST up 13.9, PDUFA today, IPHA up 9.9, JFIN 9.8 off earnings, MREO up 8, JP Morgan initiates overweight, Prop up 6.5, completes announced 600 million transaction of basin assets from Bayswater. Wolf up 6.1 off earnings, IDR up 5, cattle up 4.7, final survival data phase 2 trial, Winnebago up 4, PAR up 4.3, Goldman upgrade, ASPI up 3.8, starts commercial production of enriched silicone, CADX up 2.6, TAT up 3.8 earnings, gold and silver stocks trading higher, trading lower. SNX down 9 off earnings. GME down 7 private offering. GM down 5 off tariffs. Jeff down 5 off earnings. AMD down 3 off earnings or Jeffrey's downgrade. XPEV down 3, seeking to accelerate global expansion. UBS down 3, Bank of America downgrade. APTV down 2.6, tariffs. Toyota down 2.4 on tariffs. MGA 2.1 on tariffs. Coherus down 1.8 to sell a pataxial fabrication facility. Stellantis down 1.5, NXPI down 1.4, Trump announces tariffs, OHI down 1.2, Wells Fargo downgrade, VRNT down 11 off earnings, NEO down 7, prices 118 million share offering, CAR down 5, JP Morgan downgrade, BLCO down 4.3, voluntary recall, Core down 3.4, Bank of America resumes underperform, ALV down 3 on tariffs, CE down 3 on tariffs, LEA down 3 on tariffs, OSRH down 20, profit taking from yesterday. EQ down 20 off earnings, and DDD down 5 off earnings. Wow. GDP was good. So literally, once again, it actually went up higher than expected. It's showing the same front run from prior. Once again, hard data continues to climb. Meanwhile, soft data and the stuff not really reflective continues to plummet, as if there was a recession. Just a little bit. But yeah, it is up though, but it doesn't really match with what you've gotten, but that doesn't matter. Again, I even think today a lot of people are surprised on what is up and what is down, and we were just talking about it yesterday. You know, the market can throw tantrums, and the market is trying to get what it wants, and it could switch sides very, very clearly or quickly. So make no mistake, you know, some of these days where you get data and info, especially Wall Street is not debating tariffs anymore how you think. I brought it up yesterday, but it's there. Hard data and soft data, it's like, I'm trying to think. Like, soft data is like you have a runny nose. Hard data is you actually have cancer. Maybe that's a little too extreme, but does that make sense? Soft data is like the symptoms. Hard data is like what do you have? You know, soft data is your muscles are sore. Hard data is you actually tore a muscle. And so everybody is feeling, and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, maybe broken nose instead of cancer. But I want you to get the idea, because it's, well, no, one of them is just more deeper of a level, but sometimes the symptoms or maybe a stuffy nose does mean something, right? Sometimes it doesn't mean that you should sell all your equities, but, you know, hopefully you get the idea. But hard data, again, GDP is going up. Non-farms, job market's good. Inflation is staying down. These are hard sets of data. Ask somebody how they feel. They're going to be like, I feel terrible. And that happened under Biden too. So don't get it twisted. But now there's just a big gap. That's why, once again, you may wake up today and you're like, what do you mean the data was good? I thought it was bad. And then, wait, what do you mean the market's not right? Why is Ford up on a tariff? So do you see what I'm saying? You get like this weird reaction, but there's a very wide range of what people are viewing. And then I can't fail to remind you guys, the market is trying to get something out of this too. There's Powell in policy, Trump in policy, and then there's little old market over there. So we'll see where it takes us. But Chattadonia, are you guys ready or what? Are you ready or what? That was a very good question. So I hope you guys are ready for a lot more in the end of this month. But I am truly honored to be here. And more importantly, I am honored that we get to be surrounded by people who have served this great nation. And here at the Cult Man, before we chase a dollar, before we try to enrich ourselves, we must pay homage to that special group. And I'm talking about the veterans of the United States of America. They have literally sacrificed everything, regardless of what they agreed with or didn't agree with or disagreed. Didn't matter if it's recently or back in the day, man. There's people who have given so much for this nation so that we could be here and argue and talk and live our lives and go to the park and go to the gym. So to not honor that would be a failure of society. I'm a pacifist. I don't even like war. But to take away the honor of those in good heart and good intention who stood for their nation, that would be an utter shame. So veterans, the families, everybody who was given to this country, God bless you and thank you for real. I hope you know you are loved and appreciated. I encourage all of you to show that love and appreciation. And if anybody should be getting a long-term saving, a house, it should be you veterans. So let's get it, baby. Let's get it, and God bless you. And if you're bigger than that, if you in the government, if you on TV, let's get $6 billion, baby. That's it. We cure the homeless vets right there. $6 billion, baby. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, baby. Son of the Jets! Oh, it's game time, baby. Horn on. Let's go. Oh, yeah. What is that? Ryanair says Boeing offers backup if MAX 10 not approved. Oh, I don't know what that means, but shout out to vets, baby. All righty. Are you guys ready? Let's go. We got to move to Gen Pop. We got to move to Gen Pop. Gen Pop on the way. We took a little too much time. Oh, yeah. Amen. God bless America. Shout out to Chads, baby. All right. God bless you. I will see you there. Let's have a good morning. And if you missed anything, you could always come back to this video. You know, amen.